at uke.unihamburg.de or visit the Deutsche Welle website at dwworld.de. Imagine listening to the First Symphony of Brahms or a different piece of music that touches you. You enjoy the sound, your mood seems to adapt to every single tone, drops right into your soul. Music can leave one of the strongest impressions on us. But if you examine what actually reaches your ear, you'll find nothing but smallest changes of air pressure, molecules of air moving back and forth. The music is obviously created between our ears. Science is slowly beginning to understand what's going on up here.
Preparations are being made for a peek inside the human brain. What happens in our heads when we listen to music or when we make music? That's what physiological researchers at the Hanover University for Music and Drama want to find out. This subject's task is to play scales, but only when she sees the start signal on the monitor. On command, she either presses the keys or suppresses her impulse to play. The electrical signals from her cortex are recorded here. Brain researcher Eckhard Altenmüller uses these curves to find out which regions of the brain are active while the pianist is playing her scales.
These recordings of brain activity show us quite clearly which regions are activated and which are inhibited. When there's activation, we see a rising curve, while inhibition gives a falling curve. A feature like this means activation. A valley like this denotes inhibition. And when you analyze the data and make an image of it, you can produce very nice activation maps.
These maps of the cerebral cortex activity show that playing and processing music involves many different areas of the brain.
For me, making music is the most difficult thing humans can do. It's an extremely complicated sensory motor skill, which is based on unbelievably elaborate auditory skills. And once we've understood how the brain can perform such feats, then we'll be able to understand better how the brain functions overall.
The notion that the right half of the brain is in charge of music and intuition, while the left half is responsible for linguistic and logical thinking, is outdated. Measurements show that both halves of the brain are important for music. Melodies are mainly processed in the right temporal region. Time and rhythm are the province of the left temporal area. For example, without the beat and the rhythm, this piece sounds completely different. Melody and rhythm are completely different things, and the brain processes them in different regions. But perfect coordination between the two hemispheres fools us into thinking that melody and rhythm are a single unit. One that can drive us wild. In fact, the apparently perfect unity of time and tune is actually constructed by the brain out of two very different stimuli. But when playing music, the two hands really do have to work together. The right hand is controlled by the left side of the brain and the left hand by the right side. Here we see perfect teamwork of the two hemispheres of the brain. But they're separate, aren't they?
The most important region for the connection between the two halves of the brain is the corpus callosum. This is where the nerve fibers pass through, from the right to the left and from the left to the right. In the brains of professional musicians, the front part of the corpus callosum is much more highly developed than in musical laymen. And that's due to the necessity of synchronizing both hemispheres exactly. For instance, in people who play music with both hands, fiber growth, the thickness of the nerve fibers, is greater, so the hemispheres can transmit more information back and forth faster.
But that only applies to people who've started playing music before the age of 10. The brain is also able to form other kinds of networks. In pianists, the two different regions responsible for hearing and for controlling the hands act in apparent synchronicity. But in amateurs, one center always lags behind the other. Pianists don't even need keys. They can hear with a kind of internal ear, because playing music stimulates cross-links between different regions of the brain.
With today's music and the unbelievable demands it makes on our motor activity, we're really making use of skills that we've developed over the course of time, perhaps over hundreds of thousands of years.
The human brain has been able to invent music for at least 35,000 years. It seems likely that the people of the ancient world also would have been able to learn to play a modern grand piano. All of the necessary skills were already present in the brain, just waiting to be hooked together. But even if they'd had a concert grand, they probably wouldn't have thought of playing pieces like Bach's Passacaglia, the product of millennia of musical evolution.